Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Many of you guys have been asking me what the heck is my favorite AI altcoin going over this next cycle. We've already called a few of them and they've actually been some of my biggest winners in my personal portfolio. And so for today's video, I wanted to share with you guys one of the favorite ones I've personally been investing in, one that I'm looking forward to over the next couple months and realistically over the next 6 to 8 months as we get closer into the end of this year. Now when we're talking about AI altcoins, I wanted to brush up on some of my favorite ones that we've already made some good profit on, and really talking about, why I think there's so much value in these AI altcoins as a whole. Now, right off the bat, guys, BitTensor has been the best performing one in my portfolio, aside from Render. Render was one, though, that I got in the last cycle, so I'm not necessarily counting that one in the same sort of weight with these two, but I bought BitTensor, I bought Render, and I bought fetchAI. I didn't buy any of these at the exact bottom, but I got in at an early enough point that it really showed me that there's plenty of money to be made inside of these AI narratives. AI is going to be a huge narrative to watch for, not only in crypto, but in the entire world. And I did want to talk a little bit about what I've been looking at in hopes that you guys are also aware of these narratives, because this is going to be one that you guys can make a lot of money on, not specifically just altcoins, but the whole narrative as a whole. Being early to AI is going to be one of the most revolutionary technologies that the world has ever seen, if not the most revolutionary one. And I think it's going to be even more profound than even what the internet saw itself. Coming over here and looking at some of these altcoins that we ended up buying. Now, BitTensor was the altcoin that we bought at $92. And this thing is currently up about 6.5x, just absolutely rocketing. Massive new volume is just constantly coming in here, and that's why it's the #1 altcoin in the AI narrative. Now, when we come over here and look at Render, Render was one we bought all the way back here at 65 cents. From that move, we're up about 11x. But the issue with all of these is they've already pumped, right? They're already worth, hundreds of millions, if not multi-billions of dollars in market cap. fetchAI was another one that we bought in all the way back down here at 23 cents. That's not exact, but close enough. We're up about 6.5x on that one. So as all of these AI altcoins are sitting at new all-time highs, as they've all started breaking out and making these massive moves, everybody's kind of looking, hey, man, I want to find the next Render, or I want to find the next BitTensor. What's that next one going to be? So this is the point of the market where speculation sets in. This is the point of the market where people are going to be looking for that next new altcoin to really start to buy and position themselves in. Today, I wanted to share with you guys the one that I've been looking at, the one I've been watching lately, and that is going to be LayerAI. Now, LayerAI has a multitude of different ways to earn value inside of its market. Ultimately, it has an NFT marketplace. It has its own private VPN. It also has its own DAX and lending protocol. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make value inside of its ecosystem. But the main reason I'm looking at this has to do with the chart. I wanted to give you guys, and I will go into a little bit more detail around what the project actually is closer towards the end. But for the sake of me, I always buy things because I like the chart. I always look at the charts first. What I do inside of the market has everything to do with the chart. I'm generally speaking sitting here and then I see a cool chart and then I go, oh man, that looks really bullish. Then I go over to CoinGecko. Then I go and look at the information about it. From there, I'm able to expand on my proposition on if I think it's actually a good buy. Now, what I was looking at with this one was mainly just this Wyckoff accumulation. Notice how we have this low, we rally up here, and then we make this second low. It's a lower low, but then we make our first higher high, and then we kind of consolidate sideways, and that's what led to this breakout. This is what is known as a Wyckoff. And when we come over here and actually pull up our Wyckoff schematic, this will make it a little bit more sensible of what I'm trying to explain. This low and this low are this low and this low, and then when we make our first kind of higher high and consolidate here, it was the same thing that we did right over in here. And notice how that's also the moment where all of the volume came in, and that's when the market broke out. It really just followed along perfectly with your textbook Wyckoff, and this is the bottom of a brand new cycle, right? We've seen the bear market, and now we've broken out, and we've successfully cleared the range high. And if you notice here on this same sort of chart, this SOS, it doesn't stand for save our souls. It actually means that we're going to be breaking out. And so when we're sitting here consolidating, we've already broken out from that point. We're at this point up here where we're just at the basic point before price discovery. So for us to be sitting back on support, retesting that, this is kind of the last moment anybody's going to get to buy this before we do start breaking out in a much bigger way. And that's kind of what I think is going to be playing out from here. Now, when I zoom out, I really like this because this has the total price history over here on Huobi, but it's listed on every other exchange. If we come over and look at the CoinGecko, and we scroll down, it's listed on literally every major exchange. And the best part is the market cap's only worth $11 million. Well, just under $12 million, I should say. But regardless, guys, with all of the new volume that's coming in here, with an over 500-day bottom formation and us breaking from it, you know, the Wyckoff bottom that I was just sharing with you guys, having all of these different on-ramps for liquidity is going to be the real difference maker for what cryptos end up getting a lot of upside potential. And the real reason is this. What we ended up seeing over the last couple weeks when the market really started breaking out was, you know, Coinbase shut down, KuCoin shut down, all of these exchanges kind of shut down that were the big players in the market. And that happens every cycle. There's always so much demand and so much traffic for, you know, cryptos buying into these things that we always end up seeing short-term crashes inside of our systems. It just overloads the systems too much. Now, every time this happens, it's always a signal that retail is here. The reason why these markets, or what I should say, the exchanges are crashing, has everything to do with the fact that their servers are overloaded from all of the demand of people depositing, from people making accounts, from people trying to sign up and, you know, deposit money over there from their banks and whatnot. And so as this happens, we're always seeing retail money flocks to centralized exchanges first. And so whichever cryptos are exposed to those centralized exchanges, they're going to see the most immediate impact of that first initial liquidity. But then from there, that money ends up bridging and kind of going on chain itself. But it's always having these sort of major listings, listing on Bybit, Gate.io, MEXC, KuCoin. These are all of the biggest exchanges inside of the market, and they're also global markets as well. So at $11 million, so at $12 million in total market cap, to me, that's just a really undervalued play, and it doesn't really get much better than that, considering the average person is speculating right now. They just watched Tau and BitTensor blow up like crazy. They just watched Render blow up like crazy. They just watched Fetch AI blow up like crazy and go into a new all-time high. And now they're sitting there thinking, man, what the heck is the next one? I'm trying to buy and get positioned early into these AI altcoins. Am I missed out? Am I getting left behind? Yeah, I'm getting left behind. I need to find something, right? So this is the moment where they do start looking. And the first place everybody always looks is TradingView. And TradingView always has data from centralized exchanges. They start going to centralized exchanges to actually find the coins anyways. So it's these ones that end up benefiting the most. So as we've broken out of this little bottom formation, I do think that the ROI potential becomes really great, because when we do look at the all-time graph of Huobi, looking all the way to the listing pump that we made, you know, that's almost a 12x return. I mean, I think it technically would be. It's almost exactly a 12x return, and this has more volume coming into it all the way back down in here than what we even saw at the peak all-time high of that listing. So even though we've seen this big correction, that just presented a new opportunity, because they have a lot of different ways for money to be able to come over here. There's a big value proposition for the token itself. And one of the biggest value propositions that I kind of wanted to cover here had a lot to do with this website and coming over back and looking a little bit about the token functionality. Now, the DAO itself actually governs this. And so people that own and stake the LAI token, that's how you participate in their governance. And that's really what's going to determine the tokenomics future-wise around the buybacks and the burns. And that's kind of one of the big things that, you know, I've personally seen make people a lot of money is any token that implements a buyback and a burn. They benefit the most inside of a bull market, but they also benefit the most in the bear market as well. Even though there's no such thing as a bear market proof altcoin, we always see every altcoin go down in the bear market regardless of the situation. It's the altcoins that have these sort of buyback and burns from people either buying or selling the tokens. And the reason why is because as people are buying the token, there's a lot of volume coming in. That's burning the token supply. So that ends up creating a supply crunch and the price goes up in bull markets. Now what happens is the market crashes into the bear market is you still have all of that same volume, but then the market is actually selling and burning off that token as well. So it's still happening both ways, but what happens is instead of a 95 and a 99% crash on the bottom, it ends up being like a 60 or a 70% correction, maybe like an 80% correction. They generally don't have as big of bear markets like BNB. BNB is a great example of an altcoin that did that, where in its bear market, it didn't really sell off that much. And I'll actually come over here and share with you guys the BNB chart, because I do think it's going to be applicable to our current situation talking about this coin. Now, coming all the way back here, remember how in 2018, Binance Coin only sold off about 81%. Versus Ethereum 95%, if not 98%. And then there was a majority of other altcoins that did the same thing. And that was an early sign because the reason why it only sold off 80% instead of 98% was because it had that token burn taking place. Even though there was all of this volume still happening inside the bear market, it was just not as volatile due to the fact that the buy burn was able to keep the price up even higher. So when I'm over here looking at LAI token and it's got all of this volume and it has all of this liquidity coming in from these different sources, I kind of think that this thing's going to blow up in a big way. Now, the way that I think that the price is going to be taking in the short term, more or less, we're just retesting this prior high, right? So we talked about the Wyckoff. We covered how the bottom formation works. I do think that that's really why we're at the point of reversing. We've already broken out of this resistance. Worst case scenario, this thing ends up pulling back just to retest this liquidity one more time before we start breaking out like this. But what I think is the most likely scenario is that we're just currently retesting this prior high. This is going to act as new support. The bulls are going to step in, and then this thing is going to run all the way up to the top of this lower high, being just over 8 cents. And that's kind of where I think that the market is going to be taking us from here. Now, I don't think that this thing is over by any means. Only having just under $12 million in total market cap, that's a huge sign that there's just going to be an easy amount of money that can come in here and really drive this thing. And also another thing I want to talk about, these guys have almost 200,000 followers on Twitter and they have a ton of engagement. So they already have a huge backing across the board. So it's not going to be hard to get the word out around them. And once people are speculating around AI, they're going to be looking on Twitter. They're going to be finding these sort of tokens. So I do think that in the short term, we're running up to this 8 cent mark. We might see a pullback, but I do think that all it's going to really act as is just a short-term correction as we're kind of retesting this level as a new support. And it would be kind of like this, right? Where we're just kind of mainly consolidating back around that level. We could even break higher than it is the thing, right? Maybe we run higher than 8 cents. We kind of go up and extend a little bit bigger than that. And then that's us running back down and retesting that prior level as new support. We'd be looking more 10 cents, that scenario. But regardless, from where we're at today to go to 8 cents, you're looking at about almost a 1.5x type of a move. If we went to 10 cents, that's a 2x. The big thing I'm watching for is all the way back and looking at this prior all-time high at a 12x from here. To me, I do think that we're going to fully reverse and go into a brand new all-time high. And it's always these sort of charts like this that get me excited, because what it really reminds me of is actually the sushi swap chart. And this is a chart that I bought into really early in that last cycle. And so coming all the way back down here and looking at sushi, this to me just reminds me of a very similar type of a setup where we went through this big sell-off. We just kind of rounded out, and now we're at the very beginning stages of us actually breaking out. But what I do believe is, even though, you know, it's such a huge move, if people that bought the bottom, they made 18x, right? Most people never thought Sushi Swap was ever going to turn around, only for it to go into a brand new all-time high. So I do think that that's going to be in store for LAI token. People are going to be looking at this thinking, man, it's never going to be up there at a 12x from here ever again. Yet that's exactly what it's going to end up doing. And so full reversal, you know, coming all the way into a new all-time high, I wouldn't be surprised to see us come all the way up to $1. To me, that's a realistic target. It's not going to be too crazy. It could far overpass that, you know, depending on the bull market we get for these AI altcoins. But I kind of think that that's going to be a realistic target, is that $1 mark. So from where we're at today, all the way down here to $1, you're looking at almost a 30x. So 30x, I think that that's more than reasonable. But when I'm thinking of that in my head, at 11 or $12 million total market cap, this thing could easily 100x. Like, even though it just $1 on the chart over here on Huobi looks like it's kind of crazy, at $11 million total market cap, you know, 100x really isn't that hard, because it doesn't have that much money inside of it. It already shows all of this new volume coming in here. To me, that's always the early indication that there is smart money buying in, because as retail is flocking to figure out what the heck the new, you know, best AI altcoin that they can buy into is going to be, this is the point where they get onto their centralized exchange, they check out all of the different cryptos that are listed there, and then from that moment, that's really where they start buying into these. And I love the name because it literally just says LayerAI. LayerAI. It couldn't be more simple. It couldn't be more straightforward with the community. The ticker itself is literally called LAI. So anybody that just goes and types in AI is going to be able to find it. And that's a really, really smart, strategic way to be able to build the crypto. It's little things like that that I really love. It's things like that that get me excited about a crypto, because that's what ultimately drives price, right? Speculation is what drives price. Everybody's speculating on what the heck the next AI crypto is. We've seen all of these prior signals that we've already made a ton of money on. Like I said, $92 down here for BitTensor. That's a 644% gain. Coming all the way back and looking at Render, this one was like, I think it's up like 11x. Yeah, 11x from that call, all the way back into the last cycle. And then even coming over here and looking at Fetch AI, this one's up 6.5x as well and is currently sitting in price discovery. So if I had to guess, you know, based off the performance of those tokens, they all had way higher market cap. This one, I'm getting into it way earlier than I ever got into any of those other altcoins. So that's why I say that this one has genuine 100x potential, is because you have to get in at an early enough point to actually expect to get 100x, right? When we're sitting at $5 billion total market cap, or let's go over and look at the token list. BitTensor's at a $4.5 billion market cap, Render $2.5 billion, Fetch almost $2 billion. All of these are already sitting at such high valuations that I don't think anybody's getting 100x from here. And that's really why everybody's been asking me, what the heck is the next altcoin I'm looking at? What am I going to be wanting to, you know, watch out for? What actually could generate a lot of profit for me long term? And when I'm looking at LAI token, it's one of those that most people can actually buy. It's accessible to pretty much anybody depending on where you're at in the world. And then even if you're American and you can't participate on any of these exchanges, you can go over and bridge onto the Binance Smart Chain and get it too. So I do think the big picture, once we get above this sort of 8 cent to 10 cent range, that's where the real price discovery starts, right? And we can kind of see this being reciprocated on every exchange. We have all of this volume that came in here before the breakout, but when we come and look at the other exchanges, for example, KuCoin, we have very, very consistent volume. You know, this is exactly what you want to see in an uptrend, is inclining volume, inclining price. You notice how we had all of this volume that came in as we broke out of this level. That's confirmation of a massive breakout. That's exactly what we would want to see. We can also come over here and look at MEXC. It has pretty much the exact same volume as the KuCoin chart. So if all of these are showing the same thing, they all have new all-time highs in volume, yet when we come and actually compare, but when we come back and look at the chart that actually compares the all-time price history, we see that this thing is just at the point of leaving the station. So this is one of my favorites for sure. I just think that having all of this backing with these major exchanges kind of asserts itself at the front, because it's always that where the retail money flows first. It's always the first centralized exchanges that the biggest ones see the most adoption. It's the same reason KuCoin, you know, kind of shut down. All of this money that we saw recently on chain, where all of these major centralized exchanges were having issues, people's deposits weren't processing because overall the servers were overloaded. Coinbase, the CEO, Brian Armstrong, had to come out and actually make a tweet saying like, hey guys, we're sorry, we're having 10 times the load that we ever experienced in our prior cycles, and we didn't expect this, we haven't anticipated it, we're working on fixing it. That happened with some of the major exchanges just a couple weeks ago. So that happened every cycle I've ever been a part of. This is my third bull run, but I've never seen quite the opportunity inside of this cycle that I'm seeing right now. Now, AI itself is going to be one of the most profitable narratives, not only in crypto, but the normal world as well. And so when we see all of these exchanges already starting to get more traffic that they never experienced before, and it's really just going to be the tokens that are, sitting on those that can actually get that liquidity when the retail money comes in. This is the institutional cycle. BlackRock is investing, Fidelity, all of these major players that have billions and billions and billions of dollars, and realistically trillions of dollars if you're counting BlackRock's reserves. These people are now getting into crypto. Now, when we're talking about what is the most revolutionary technology that we're probably going to find in crypto besides blockchain itself, probably AI. And so for me, I wasn't necessarily super big on AI to begin this cycle. I use it and I think AI is great, but it wasn't like a huge focal point. I was more focused in other narratives. But because these have all been some of my biggest winners in my portfolio so far, and they've really actually outperformed in a massive way that I wasn't anticipating, it's given me a lot of confidence to start positioning myself in some of these other ones that haven't taken off. And this one just barely broke out. So these are the type you want to be watching out for. LAI token itself has a lot of value proposition to back it with the token burns, with the buybacks, and that's kind of another big focal point that I wanted to cover. The DAO ultimately controls controlled by the LayerAI token stakers is what's going to be able to drive whether they vote on the buybacks or whether they do token burns, because they can do either or, and they can also pick how much. So if we're talking, bull markets, seeing these token burns play out in real time, seeing them play out with BNB in prior cycles, I just think that all of this is going to take off in a big way, and this is really one of my favorite ones moving forward from here. They've got a significant following over here on Twitter with having all of this engagement, having an NFT marketplace, having their own DEX and lending protocol. There's a lot of different ways for money to actually flow over here, so I definitely think that you guys should be watching out for this. I'll link the CoinGecko in the description so you can find any of the exchanges that it's listed on, so you guys can actually go and do your own research on this. Once again, if you found value in this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos like the one provided for you here. If you guys want to see how I'm investing my portfolio, any altcoins I'm buying, selling, trading over the cycles, links in the description to go ahead and sign up for my private group on my website. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and once again, with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.